It was yours. Not a gray area, not a misunderstanding, not something that could go either way if somebody looked into it. The number was wrong and you sent it, or the thing went to the client before it was checked, or you gave an answer with real confidence in a room full of people, and it wasn't right, and by now, everyone knows. And there's a specific feeling that goes with it, and it isn't guilt exactly. It's smaller and worse than guilt. It's the sense of having been seen. You've apologized, possibly more than once, and you're going to spend a good part of tonight going back through the sequence, looking for the exact place where it turned, as though finding it would undo it. Here's what almost everyone does in the next 24 hours, and why all three ways of handling this cost more than the mistake did. Then I'll tell you what a Roman philosopher said to himself every single night in the dark, and the 4 words he ended it with. 3 doors. The first is the apology that keeps going. You say sorry, then again in the afternoon. Then you put a line in an email that didn't need one. It feels like taking responsibility. Watch what it does in the room. Every apology, after the first one, is a request. You're asking to be told it's fine. So the people you got it wrong in front of now have a second job, which is managing how you feel about it. And the strange result is that the apology becomes the memorable thing. Nobody was going to think about that number again by Thursday. They'll remember the 4 apologies. The second door is the explanation. And it's dangerous because every word of it is true. The brief did change. You were given it late. 2 other things were on fire that morning. All real, all relevant, and all of it lands in the room as the same sound. This wasn't really mine. You can watch faces change while you're doing it. The context is genuinely useful information, but it can only be received later from somebody who has already completely taken the thing on. Offered first, it isn't context, it's a defense, and defenses invite prosecution. The third door is the disappearance, and it's the one careful people pick. You don't over-apologize, and you don't explain. You go quiet, put your head down and become immaculate for 6 weeks, hoping a long enough run of getting it right will quietly overwrite it. It won't, because you never closed it. It stays open in everyone's head as an unresolved thing, and unresolved things don't fade, they wait. 6 months later, somebody mentions it in a completely different context, and your face goes hot, because for you, it was never finished either. Here's the thread tying all 3 together. Every one of them is about your standing, not about the broken thing. The apology manages your standing. The explanation defends your standing. The disappearance rebuilds your standing. Meanwhile, the actual error is sitting there, and the one thing everybody in that room genuinely wants is for somebody to go and fix it. Epictetus has a line about this that is 3 sentences long and rearranges how you think about being wrong. He said, "It is the act of an uninstructed man to blame others for his own bad condition. It is the act of a man who has begun to be instructed to blame himself. And it is the act of a man whose instruction is complete to blame neither another nor himself." Read that again, because there's a trap in the middle of it. Almost everybody assumes there are 2 options: blame someone else, or take it on the chin. Epictetus says taking it on the chin is stage 2 of 3. It's progress. It is not the destination. And stage 2 is where conscientious people live for entire careers, because self-blame feels like integrity. It feels like the honorable adult version. But look at what it does with your attention. The man blaming everyone else is asking whose fault it is. The man blaming himself is asking whose fault it is. Same question. He's arrived at a different answer, and he's still spending the whole evening on it. The third stage isn't shamelessness. Epictetus was not a relaxed man. It's that the question has stopped being interesting. Something is wrong. You're the one who can fix it. The accounting of blame adds nothing to the fixing. Marcus wrote the same idea in his notebook as a standing offer to anyone around him. If any man can convince me and show me that I do not think or act rightly, he wrote, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth, by which no man was ever injured, but he is injured who abides in his error. Gladly. The most powerful man in the world, saying he'd be pleased to be corrected, because the alternative is walking around wrong. Now the moves. 3 of them. Move 1. Own it in 1 sentence and put the fix in the same breath. That number was mine, it was wrong, corrected version by 2 o'clock, and here's what it changes. That's the whole apology. 1 clause of ownership, 1 clause of repair. No context, no reasons. Not because the reasons aren't real, but because they belong to a different conversation, on a different day, with somebody who asks. What that sentence does to a room is remarkable, and it's the opposite of what you fear. It ends the topic. There is nothing to add to it, nowhere for it to go, and no one has to reassure you. Move 2. Be the one who reports it. The cost of a mistake is set almost entirely by who says it out loud first, and that is a variable you control completely. The same error found by your manager on Friday is a competence problem. Announced by you on Wednesday, with a fix attached, it's a person who has a firm grip on their own work. Nothing about the error changed. The only thing that moved was the order of discovery, and you usually find it first. That's the thing, you almost always know before anyone else does. That gap between you knowing and them knowing is the most valuable few hours you'll have all week. Spend it. Move 3. Do the audit at night, on paper, without heat. This is Seneca's own practice, and he's oddly specific about it. He says the habit came from Sextius, and then describes doing it himself. When the light is out and his wife has gone quiet because she knows what he's doing, he goes back over the whole day, hides nothing from himself, and passes nothing over. He lists his faults from that day. He argued too aggressively with someone who was never going to be persuaded. He was sharper than he needed to be. And then the part that makes the practice survivable. He asks why he should be afraid of any of his errors when he can say to himself, see that you do not do it again. Today I pardon you. That's the tone. Judge, not executioner. The audit's purpose is one named decision you'd make differently, not a general verdict on your character. Because in the moment you cannot tell the difference between I did a careless thing and I am a careless person, and one of those is information and the other is a mood. The first can be acted on tomorrow. The second just sits there being true-ish and ruining your evening. So here's the rule. Write it down. Own it once. Then they just work. Tomorrow, 3 things. 1. The next time you get something wrong, say 1 sentence, what was yours and what you're doing about it, and then physically stop talking. 2. When you spot an error before anyone else, take the hours you've been given and use them to be the one who reports it. 3. Tonight, write down the single decision you'd make differently, and then write, today I pardon you underneath it, and mean it, and close the book. You will not be able to stop being wrong. Marcus ran an empire and asked people to correct him. Seneca went over his failures every night for years. What you always control is how long the mistake stays about you instead of about the work. Master that, and getting something wrong stops being a thing that happens to your reputation and goes back to being a thing that happens on a Tuesday. If this helped, like it and subscribe. There's a new one every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And do one more thing. Send this to the person who apologizes when you bump into them. You know exactly who they are. They'll apologize for having watched it, and then they'll send it to somebody else. The journal's in the description if you want the weekly version. And watch this one next. The Revenge Mistake Smart People Regret.